Hey everyone, welcome to Get to Know the Real Estate Ecosystem. We are kicking off a brand new season with industry veteran Jeffrey Halpern. Today's conversation is about something often overlooked in real estate, which is real estate education. It is not just passing exams or closing deals, but learning that truly matters. Jeffrey Halpern is a real estate broker, educator, and someone who has spent nearly 4 decades not just doing deals, but teaching others how to do them right. In this episode, we will deconstruct exactly where real estate education is broken and how we are going to fix it and what is it costing all of us right now. I could introduce Jeff myself, but he has earned the kind of reputation that speaks for itself. Jeff, I will let you introduce yourself in your own words.
Well, first of all, great to be here, Nisha, and good to see you again. So, I'm Jeff Halpern. I happen to be a real estate agent for the Halpern Real Estate Group of Howard Hanna Rand Realty. I've been in the business since 1985 when I first got my real estate license. And I worked for a company called Circus Real Estate Group. Funny name, but it was actually someone's name spelled CIRKUS. And I knew right from the beginning, I love this business. And I got so involved with it that I tried to touch every piece of it. So the company that I joined, the reason why I joined was because I loved the building that they were in. That was it. I knew nothing else about them, but discovered that they were the largest condo conversion company in the state of New Jersey, which was a real learning experience. Even though I didn't start in the conversion group, I started as a salesperson doing my cold calls, knocking on doors, taking buyers and sellers out in my car, reviewing listings with them and trying to take their listings. I soon learned that the business was a lot more than that, especially with this company. So within a year, I was heading up their residential division. And then within 2 years, I was on their conversion division, still running the residential division, learning as much as I could about the business. Some of the clients that we had during the heyday of condo conversions was Charles Kushner, who happens to be the dad of Jared Kushner, who you've heard his name a lot because he happens to be the son-in-law of President Trump. Interesting enough, I remember seeing him as a kid in his dad's office. So he's gone a long way. But anyway, from there, I've managed several real estate offices. I've sold thousands and thousands of properties. I've overseen transactions of thousands and thousands of properties. I've also tutored people. I also teach the pre-licensing course. As a matter of fact, right now I'm teaching a senior licensing course at a high school in Livingston, New Jersey. I think I'm the only real estate pre-training instructor that's teaching a high school course. And once these kids get done with this course, they can actually take the real estate exam and become real estate agents at age 18, which is actually a great time to start. Not to say they're all going to do that, but at least now they have the knowledge of real estate and how important it is and it plays a role in our economy. And so that's my life. I'm married for there'll be 43 years this year. Have two children, both adults, and two grandkids, which are like the light of my life. So that's my life so far. It's only gotten started.
Jeff, it is very beautiful. Thank you. Jeff, you have said that the real problem isn't licensing. It's what agents don't learn after they enter the business. From your experience, what is actually missing in real estate education today?
Well, the licensing course itself teaches you how to take the real estate exam. Now, when I give the course, I talk about real life situations because I know that when they get to a real estate company, they don't learn all that. They learn if the broker has enough time to teach them. Usually the broker is going to tell them how to sell, but they're not going to teach them how to develop networking, how to develop a way to open up to the world and who you are and what you do. I also think that brokers today concentrate too much on the sales and numbers aspect than they do on the people aspect of the business. And that's, I think, important. What's ethically right, what's morally right, what's lawfully correct. They have to adhere to it, and brokers should be teaching it because brokers are responsible for their agents, but not enough brokers do. Usually it's about the numbers. It's about their tools on how they can bring in more numbers. But it's not about ethics. It's not about people and how they think and how they act and how you should respond to them. Agents talk way too much, but they don't listen enough. Big aspect. And I don't think there's enough education when it comes to that.
Jeff, you also have shared that there are three main things in real estate that agents do.
Yes. So
Can
there
you?
is,
Yep,
I'm sorry, finish
it's
your question.
okay. Just wanted to learn from you, Jeff.
Okay.
That's it.
So there are three main objectives of a real estate agent. It's servicing their clients, making sure that they can get them to a closing, whether you're listing their home for sale and making sure that you're pricing it right and you're going to be marketing it to expose it to their target market. And then when you get offers on it, to help the seller come up with what they think they could be the best buyer for their house. It's not always about price. Sometimes it's about conditions in that contract. And then making sure it gets to closing. With a buyer, it's taking them out, getting them pre-approved by a mortgage company, making sure they qualify, not just financially, but also mentally and psychologically, and understanding their wants and needs. Because I always say to whoever I teach, anybody who I've trained and so forth, make sure you get as much of their needs as you can when they're looking to buy and throw in a couple of the wants. And then you should always be able to make that sale and determine what their real needs are. Sometimes their wants aren't really what they need. It's just their wants. A lot of times their wants aren't affordable. And then getting them to that house, presenting an offer to the seller or the seller's agent, and getting them through closing. The hardest part is the transactional management, more so than looking at the pretty houses. The next part is finding clients, right? You're servicing people, which is great, but when they close, you need more people to show. So it's learning how to market yourself, being able to network with others. Networking is a very important thing. I'm a member of a a group called the BNI, which is Business Networking International, where we have one of each profession that is part of the group. So I'm the realtor or the real estate agent profession of it. And they've become my team. Also finding new agents through new buyers and sellers through social media, mailers, writing blogs, doing podcasts like this one, and so forth. The last is, and then is the most important is, they call everything a practice, right? You never perfect it. It's a practice. So you should continue to learn your craft. It's either learning your clients, which everyone's different, learning the laws that are coming up. And there are plenty of new laws that change every year, whether it's in your state or federal, or even in your town when zoning laws change. And then it's learning about what's going on in the real estate market locally, by state, federally, and internationally. All that's important, and you got to keep up with the news. I happen to be one of those real estate news nerds, so I keep on that stuff. How are interest rates helping or hurting the economy or helping or hurting buyers and sellers? What are the trends by buyers? What are the trends by the sellers? Making sellers understand that they have to think like a buyer when they put their house in the market, and buyers to say, think like a seller when you're looking to buy a house. What does that mean? Sometimes you have to put on different hats when you're buying or selling. Like, for instance, when someone's selling their home, they should think like a buyer and understand that their home is not their home anymore. It's a house and it's a commodity, and making them understand that pricing a home must be adapt to what the market is doing. Continuing learning, and I do that all the time, because that's why I stay in the business, by the way, because I continue to learn more and more and more. Not just from people who've been in the business a while, but brand new people. The other day, I was actually at a high school giving a talk about real estate to this shop class that builds homes for Habitat for Humanity. They're the only school in New Jersey that does that. I want to give a shout out to Frank Cacavel, who is a teacher at Roxbury High School, who's teaching these kids how to build homes. And I actually went into one of their homes because it's a prefab home. They build it in the back of the school, and then they deliver it to the site, and then that property is sold to someone who is in low income at no interest loans for a really, really good price. But they do things that that are incredible. Those are the heroes. But that's what I keep learning. I keep learning about how people help other people in home ownership and so forth. And it's not just learning that way, it's also learning about new tools, about new ways to network. So there's always something to learn. So the learning part's a big part of every agent, and no agent knows everything. There's no way because it changes too often. So so it's servicing, finding, learning. That's the three.
Okay, Jeff, I wanted my audience to learn more about the seller and buyers, who actually are sellers and who actually are buyers, and what are their respective duties.
Okay. So some real life examples are actually one is has to do with the seller side of it. So every seller is different and every seller can bring you other sellers. So I have one example, which was one that was really a very difficult situation. So not everything's like HGTV, where you can show a house, three houses in 30 minutes and sell something to somebody. It takes quite a while. So I was working with a buyer, beautiful family, and I sold them a house in a local town. And then she tells me that she has a brother-in-law who's thinking of selling their home in another town. So I said, okay, I'd be happy to help them. I go meet with him and his ex-wife, who happens to be my client's sister. And the house is a house of a hoarder. This house was a mess, and it was a mess in every single room that this gentleman lived in. He actually lived in this house. And he went through a traumatic experience, him and his ex-wife, because their son had committed suicide on the second floor. So that kind of changed his brain. So now he went from someone who was very traumatic. It was a very traumatic experience. So that's when he became the hoarder. Couldn't care less about what was going on in the house. So we ended up putting on the market and finally selling it after lots of showings, but having to look for someone who would take a home on like this, and bought the house as is. The person had to replace the oil tank. I had a problem with the oil tank company originally because I think they put an offer on the house and they didn't get it. So I think what I was told by the owner, that they put a hole in the oil tank when they removed it, and they reported to the state, which meant now that the oil tank failed. So now the seller had to replace the oil tank and fix contaminated soil. I won't give you the name of the company. I should, but I won't.
Sure.
But we finally found this buyer that would take the house, cleaned it out, and then he removed the oil tank and paid for the soil remediation. And then he also had to replace the septic tank. So as an agent, I got to learn a lot. I got to learn who not to use as an oil tank removal company, first of all. But then I got to learn a lot about the process and about the fact that there are people out there that are willing to buy homes like this. Now, he bought it at a really, really great price, but it was a great learning experience. And I made sure that the seller knew how the buyer thinks by explaining what they had to go through. Same family gives me another house in another town where her mother lived there with her adult brother. Her adult brother had, and not when I took the listing, but just before, had murdered his mother and committed suicide. So now you had this tainted home. Oh my God, it's terrible. And so it took 2 or 3 years before they put the house on the market through me, but I went to see the house, another house that was a disaster, total disaster. Hoarding, bugs, whatever. It was not a nice place in a very nice little neighborhood too. So we put it on the market, and again, learning something new. I had priced it at 300,000. We had 6 offers. Highest offer was like 306. Thought great. But then we looked at the numbers, and the mom who lived there had a reverse mortgage, and she owed $300,000 on the reverse mortgage. Plus, they had to pay me and the attorney and everyone else involved. So we couldn't make the deal with the highest offer, except I said to the buyer, who happened to be the son of a real estate agent, said, look, we can't sell it to you for this price, but if you can come up to 335, you get the house. They came up to 335, which was great. Now, to put more pressure on that, they were using an FHA loan. FHA loan means you could put 3.5% down, but it's inspected by FHA because they do an appraisal. Their appraisal is part of an inspection, and we knew the condition that it was in They would not get them loan because FHA would never give them a loan in this. So that we got the buyer to purchase the home before they did the mortgage application. The buyer cleaned up the house themselves before they closed. They passed the FHA inspection and then they closed on a home at 335, but they totally gutted it, went in, and now they live there. Their house is probably worth 450 now, maybe even 500. So, but this was a learning experience that, even though I've done some hoarders, the fact that it was one family that had all these calamities was an eye opener. So most agents wouldn't take that on. It's just a lot. I love the family, and we still talk today after 7 years for the holidays. So that's the seller side, and also a buyer. When it comes to a buyer, you got to be careful. A couple of years ago, when there were bidding wars on every single house, it would be a very big frustration to buyers to buy. So I would always tell buyers, you have to make offers in at least 5 houses before you get one. That's how it was. I was working with one family. He and his mom had a dog sitting business. So they would sit for dogs and do dog walking. They were a great family. And she worked for a merchandising company in clothes. And we had put offers on in 16 houses that they didn't get. Well, 15 that they didn't get. And then they won the offer on the 16th home. But the experience was that the buyer needed to know everything to go forward and understand that the pitfalls of what home buying is, as well as the joy of it, right? They were so happy when they got a house and they fit in this perfect house for them. First time home buyer, but it was just perfect for them. And they just had a baby recently, so it's all good. Every experience is different. That's what I love about this business. Every buyer's different, every seller's different, their needs are different. So that whole thing about consulting with buyers and sellers first are very important to really not just build a rapport, but also to understand what they are looking for. That's it.
Okay, so Jeff, when you talk about gaps in education, are these issues limited to only the residential real estate, or do they show up just as strongly on the commercial side as well?
Oh, the commercial side, even more so. Commercial is a little different than residential. Commercial is all numbers. How do the numbers work, right? It's when you're buying commercial, you're buying with your head. When you're buying real estate residential, you're buying with your heart. So the numbers are very important, not just the current numbers, but numbers that may happen within the next 2, 3 years. Because remember, they're buying today for benefits later, if you know what I mean, right? Before COVID, commercial real estate was really strong. COVID hit, commercial real estate was pretty much done because what happened was that a lot of these companies had remote work, and a lot of them
Right.
stayed that way, right? So you didn't need the same kind of space. Also in my business in real estate, nobody really, I mean, people go to sales meetings, but that might be the only time you go into your office if it's not Zoom. I'll walk into my office, there's 60 agents in the office that I work in. If I see 2 or 3 agents in there, that's a lot. Not because people aren't working, it's just that you don't need to be there. Real estate offices are contracting. These big companies with offices in every town, you don't need it anymore. It's regional offices that can cover counties or at least, contiguous towns within a, 20-mile radius. So so you got to look at trends. But with commercial, you have to look at what businesses are doing, how much space that they need, but you also got to look at those numbers. And you're not just looking at the numbers of the business itself, but you're also looking at the numbers of businesses that are nearby. I mean, that's how you determine a value of a property for commercial. It's not based on what other places have sold for, it's based on what is known as a cap rate. How much money are they capturing back to put in their pockets, their cash flow? That also includes not just commercial business like offices and retail, but also includes when you're buying multifamilies. It's all about the numbers.
So, Jeff, most agents believe that only passing the exam means that they are ready to be in the industry. From what you have seen, what does licensing prepares agents for actually, and what does it leave them completely unprepared for?
Well, the licensing class prepares them to take the licensing exam. That's their main objective. Licensing classes have changed. They also, in our state and in many states as well, they allow self-paced classes, which means you don't even have a teacher teaching you. You have slides to look at and maybe a book to read, which I think is very difficult. I still teach in-person classes or at least Zoom classes so I can use my background to talk about, well, the reason why this happens is because of this, or I use an example of a topic that we're going over, something that either has gone through my life in business or someone else's life. So it basically tells them exactly what it means. Here's an example, and I think you get a better understanding of it. I've actually done videos for the pre-licensing class too. So it's not just slides, it's me talking. So hopefully that helps a little bit. But it really prepares you to take the exam. That's all they care about. The schools want to get paid. You take your classes. If you show up, you show up. If you don't, you don't. You have to do your minimum of 75 hours if you're taking in New Jersey. Every state is different, but it's not enough. It doesn't tell you it doesn't tell you about people. It doesn't really tell you about the current laws or what's happening in the local market. It just tries to help you pass the test. And what's interesting is in New Jersey, the passing rate in New Jersey for brand new agents is under 30%. 30%, which is crazy. It's good for me, less competition, but if you think about it, it's not very high. So that's what the class teaches you. Teaches you how to pass the exam. But getting out into the real world is a whole different animal.
So, ethics training exists, but it often feels like just a checkbox. Why do you think the code of ethics isn't truly absorbed or practiced by agents nowadays?
Fortunately, it's about numbers. It's about getting the next sale. It could be a broker or a broker manager who's not really overseeing their agent's activities. Now, a broker usually knows what's ethical and what's not, but an agent's out on their own. They're all independent contractors. So nobody's watching everything that they do. But yet, all this falls on the broker. So the broker should continue to bring up ethics, the new laws, and items like that. Also, the advent of teams. Teams are fairly new within the past less than 10 years. And teams have become tremendous, but they feed usually the team leader. The team leader gets all the credit, even though the team does a lot of the work. But if the team leader is unethical because they follow the team leader more than the broker, then those agents aren't going to know any better, right? So the team leader has a big responsibility too, even though they're not actually responsible. The broker's responsible for all their agents. The team leader's responsible for their team, but not on the liability side as much as just the number side. How many sales, how many listings? Can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? I think teams are getting better. I think hopefully some of the states are going to hone in on team requirements. Like when you're a team leader, you don't have to be a broker. I could be an agent and just have a team. And just because I'm a high producer, so I have a bunch of minions working for me, but you don't know what they're doing either. So, and yet the broker is still responsible for each one of those people. I think ethics, although it is taught by the Board of Realtors and is required by the Board of Realtors that you must take a 2.5-hour ethics course every 3 years. And the states usually you have to take a two-hour ethics course every 2 years. I don't know how much people pay attention. And the reason why I tell you that is because I also teach the broker's class. Someone who's been an agent for 3 years, who now wants to become a broker, which allows them to open up their own brokerage if they want, or to become a manager of another company. And I'll go over ethics or laws, and all of a sudden they're like deer in headlights. I didn't know that. I've been doing it this way for years. Well, guess what? You're lucky you weren't caught because it was not the right thing to do, which means that no one's overseeing what they're doing. So you kind of like need a compliance officer for each real estate company if the managers aren't doing it. Otherwise, the real estate commission goes after you.
And this compliance officer is above the broker, right?
No, compliance officer would be working for the broker.
Okay, for the
So say, for instance, someone hired me to be their compliance. I would still sell stuff, but I could keep an eye on, or if there's any questions on, I could be the one to go to if I was that, or if anybody was a compliance officer. But I really think so. Like some of the big companies have compliance officers, or which they have basically are attorneys who are overseeing, but they only oversee when problems come up. And that's
Yes. Interesting. So, Jeff, you have also mentioned that there are 17 articles that pertains to clients, customers, and also the public.
right. Code of ethics.
Okay, so that means 17 code of ethics, like 17 articles related to code of ethics for the clients, for the customers, and also for the public.
Correct. Yep.
Got it. And where can, if anybody wants to learn them, where can they go and learn these articles?
Well, you can go online. You can go on the National Association of Realtors site. Your broker should have a copy of them. I think all real estate agents should actually bring a copy with them when they meet their clients, because now their clients, maybe they will read them, maybe they won't, but now there's some accountability. Oh, wait a minute. He has to do this. She has to do that. So I think it's a good idea to bring a code of ethics with you when you meet a client at a client consultation for the first time. So again, you're made accountable to these code of ethics. I think every so often, a broker who's doing a sales meeting should, maybe even every meeting, cover one article, just one. Article 1, blah, 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 Article 2, da, da, da. So that it keeps reminding them that there is a code of ethics. I'm a big believer in the code of ethics. And so I really think it's got to be continual. You've got to keep reminding because people forget. People are in situations that they just don't know, or they don't know how to act. And instead of calling their broker to get clarification, they just go ahead and do it.
Well, Jeff, this brings me to a question that what if, well, like, what will happen if a client doesn't follow any of the articles or the customer doesn't follow any of these articles or like in general? What will happen?
Well, the real estate agent's the one who has to keep within the code of ethics.
Mm-hmm.
If a client or a customer, let's take fair housing. Fair housing is Article 10 in the code of ethics. There's also the fair housing laws of the federal government and the state government. New Jersey happens to be the most stringent of all fair housing. You go to someone's house and you want to list their home, and they say to you, "Well, I don't want to sell to those people." What does an agent do? Does an agent say, "Okay, that's all right, I'll take your listing anyway"? Or does the agent say, "You shouldn't do that because that's against the law"? Or does an agent walk away? My say is you walk away, because even though you might tell a seller, you can't do that because the only thing that matters is money, is the numbers. And they say, "Yeah, you're right. They're going to discriminate one way or another." So you got to be really careful. So that's a biggie. Now, when I started in seems like 1985, I remember I would go to someone's house to take a listing and they would be so discriminatory. And I would say, "Why?" "Well, because I don't want to hurt my neighbors." I would walk away. People aren't as blatant as they used to be. Right now, there's a lot of closet bigots. They won't say anything, but you find out maybe later through conversations or when offers come in that they don't want those people. So you have to be cognizant of that. So that's just one example. But there are other examples too that I can go through that have to do with the code of ethics. I mean, there's the last 3 articles has to do with how realtors treat each other. You can't disparage under other companies, whether you're talking to a client or a customer, or if I'm talking to an agent from another company. That's against the code of ethics. It's also really bad business. So there's plenty ethics to live by. As a real estate agent, you should. So,
Got it.
and buyers don't know it, sellers don't know it. So as long as you live by it and you treat your clients by the code of ethics, then you'll be fine, and that you document everything that you do so that you don't You don't get in trouble when someone says you did this, you didn't do this. So, well, wait a minute, on January 5th, I did tell you this because I emailed you this or whatever it is. So it's called CYA.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
So, Jeff, we say that the information is out there, but if agents aren't reading it, then the delivery is the problem. And how do you suggest that we get this vital information to people out there who won't sit down and read a PDF?
Well, again, it's the broker or the manager of the office that should be bringing it up. It should be all the time, not daily, but at least enough that people get it in their head. By example, maybe bring up lawsuits that have come up. I can go online right now on the New Jersey real estate website, and it'll have all the complaints that were in against realtors, the ones that went in front of the real estate commission, who have been fined, who have lost their license. That should be also out there even more so. The Board of Realtors has been thinking about posting those who have been found guilty of ethics violations. I know California started to do it. I don't know if they still are. They may have taken that back. That would also hold agents accountable to keeping within the laws and within the code of ethics. Just saying, oh, wait a minute, I don't want my name. That's like the naughty list. I don't want my name on the naughty list.
So, Jeff, when agents are underprepared, who ultimately pays the price?
So obviously the clients pay the price. The customer pays the price. And it is too late. I have an example about that where the agent was sued actually. So there's a town in New Jersey called Montville Township. And Montville Township consists of 3 communities, Tawaco, Montville, and Pinebrook. There was an agent, I won't name the company, no need to, who was working with a client, a mom who wanted her daughter to go to a certain school. So she found a home in Tawaco, which was only 2 blocks away from the school that she wanted her daughter to go to. So the mom said to the agent, "Will my daughter go to this school?" And the agent said, "I can't say why not. It's only 2 blocks away," which sounded great. Bought the house. She closed on the house. She registered her daughter for September school year and discovered that this school was not associated with Tawaco. It was actually a Montville school system. So her daughter had to register in a Tawaco school. The woman was upset, and she should be, right? You told me. So she sued the agent. In court, the agent lost, but the agent did not have to pay any monetary fine to it because even though she lost, the judge said, "You're right. She was wrong and she should have known, but you're the mom and you should have done your due diligence as well. You can't rely on someone else's information." But it still cost the agent money. She had to pay for an attorney. She had to take a day off of work at least. The stress probably was really hard on her and it killed her reputation. So that's something that, that comes up that an agent should have known because one of the fiduciary responsibilities of an agent is called care, right? Know what you're doing. Know what you're talking about. Guess what? The agent didn't know. And even though she said it should be okay, which means it's sort of like an answer, I would take it as the mom is, oh, she said it was fine. And there's lots of examples like that where an agent will talk way too much or will say too much and not really know exactly if what they're saying is true or not. They're not lying on purpose. They're just not finding out. So you can't assume. No, you ever hear, what was that, on Odd Couple? You can't assume anything because you make an ass out of you and me. That's the way it works. But that's a big thing. Fiduciary responsibility to your clients, which is part of the code of ethics, which is actually part of the law of agency. How
Totally.
you represent.
Yeah, that was a massive wake up call, I think.
Yep.
So, yeah, Jeff, after nearly 4 decades in the industry, what mistakes do you still see agents making today that should have disappeared years ago?
There was actually, it was 41 yesterday, just so you know. Almost 40. I hit 41
Congratulations.
yesterday.
Congratulations.
Thanks. No big party though. I
Why
just woke
not?
up in the morning and did what I do.
That's unfair.
That's
41 is a big number.
that's okay. It's no big thing. So, I mean, mistakes are always going to be made, right? When it comes to money, mistakes are either made on purpose or by accident. So it's really, it starts again, starts from the top. A fish sinks from the head. It starts from the person you're looking up to, your manager, your broker. And are they keeping up with what's going on ethically, morally, legally, and just with what's going on with trends? Are you keeping up with it as an agent as well? Can't always rely on just your broker, but your broker has to put something in your head to say, oh, I should look that up. So mistakes are always going to be made because every house is different. Every buyer's different. And I think agents have to rely more on experts in their certain fields. You know, when it comes to, like an example, you're not sure if the heating unit works perfectly. But me as an agent, I can't tell you because I'm not a HVAC person. So you have an expert take a look at it. So don't talk too much. Don't give your opinion unless it's asked or or it's something that's so blatant that you have to say something, and understand what your clients want. So that's the other thing too. Understand your clients' needs and wants. You know, there's I can give you so many examples about that, but it's so true. But always rely on an expert when you don't know. And if you don't know, go to your broker or your manager, and they should at least put you in the right direction. And that's what it is. Agents talk way too much, like I'm doing right now. So be careful. Be careful with words you say. So it's
Got
like
it.
that toothpaste thing. Once the paste comes out of the toothpaste holder, you can't put it back.
Understood.
Mhm.
Jeff, what is the vetted process they should follow? Can you give us some steps to stay safe in an ecosystem that feels like broken? And what steps can seller take to protect themselves from being misled, especially when choosing an agent?
That's a great question. Thinking that a seller needs to interview more than one agent. Yes, it could be your brother or your sister because everybody knows a real estate agent. Everybody knows a real estate agent because everybody has a license. But is it the right agent for you? It could be. It'd be great if it was, but what if it's not? What if you picked a cousin because they just got their license? They have no idea what they're doing. You've chosen the wrong person. So interview 3 agents. Listen to what they have to say. And then what is that comfort level that you have with that agent, right? What is that comfort? Because you're going into an agreement for a certain time period. It's almost like a marriage, but very short term marriage. And are you going to be able to work with this person, your agent, for 6 months, 9 months, a year, whatever the time period is? Is your agent going to be on your side? Does your agent understand your needs? Do they have the tools to expose your home to as many people as your market will allow? Right? It's not just your town, but people being relocated into the area. There's a lot of that. Making sure that you understand that you can keep your agent accountable for what they're doing, and you got to feel like they're going to be on your side. So I think interview at least 3 agents, and don't pick the agent that gives you the highest asking price because they're probably not looking to help you sell. They're just looking to add another listing. That's
So,
where it's.
noted. Very well noted, Jeff. Jeff, if education continues to focus only on the sales instead of responsibilities, what does that mean for the future of the real estate industry?
It'll make it more competitive, less ethical, less knowledgeable by the agents.
Like if they focus only on the sales part.
Yeah, they don't focus only on the sales part. Understand their people. They also have to think like a client too. If I was a client, how would I want my agent to treat me? You show one house, are you ready to buy it? Ready to buy it? Can't do that. You have to, sometimes it takes 6 months to sell a home. Sometimes you do sell a home on the first sale, on the first showing. I mean, when I took my daughter out with her now husband to look for a house, we went out one day, looked at 10 houses. They chose one. I thought that was good. It sounded like a great house for them, and they ended up buying it. And then I came home and my wife said, you only am taking them out one day? I said, yeah, they found the house. I don't need to take them out for weeks and weeks and weeks to find one. And again, I'm their dad. So I want the best for them as well. But they found the house. Whereas other people, it might take you 6 months. It might take 3 months. You just have to be prepared for that and always be on their side. It's always be on their side, work hard for your clients and they'll remember you forever. Hopefully. That's okay.
So, Jeff, over this season that we are going to do with you, we are going to talk about teaching fiduciary duty, burnouts, consumer protection, and what real education should look like. Now, from your point of view, why are these conversations are so important for the people to know about them? Like, how important are they?
Okay, so I think they're all important aspects of real estate and of our profession. Again, when you're working with the public, you need to be forthright. You need to know what you're doing. You know, you have those fiduciary responsibilities towards your clients, which is trust and confidence, which includes the acronym OLD CAR: obedience, loyalty, disclosure, confidentiality, accounting, and reasonable care. Right? That's why they hire you. They hire you because they're making the largest investment in their lives, more than likely, right? At least 95% of them. So you have to understand that, and you have to do it the right way, not just any way. It's not just about the buck. It's a people business. It's all about people. Real estate's a conversation. Playing the game correctly, you'll last a very long time. Like I can go in and sell lots but not do anything that's legal or ethically right. But I will be out of business very soon. Maybe I made a lot of money that first couple of years, but I might be sued. I might be caught. You're going to get caught. Maybe not this transaction, maybe not the next one, but somebody's going to go after you. And remember, they don't just go after you the day before the day it closes. It can happen years later too. Can I give you another example of something that happened?
Yes, please.
So I am also a real estate expert witness, and I was called by an attorney several years ago, and they were representing a real estate agent in South Jersey. And the real estate agent was being sued by someone she sold to several years prior to that. And she was being sued because when the buyer bought and now closed, and he was living there for a while, he discovered that there was mold in the walls. There was an addition added to the house that was never permitted for, and a couple other things too. So he sued everybody. He was ready to put the house back in the market. He sued
Okay.
everybody: the agent that sold him the house, the agent that had listed the house, the home inspector, the town inspector, the town, everybody. So I was hired to review the paperwork, and the file was like this thick, and I had to write
Yeah.
my opinion piece, which I did. I was never deposed, and I was never had to go into court because what I wrote and what was looked at by the plaintiff's attorney as well said that she had nothing to do with what's going on now because she was never told about the mold. And so she sold the house as she saw it and how it was described to her. But it was 11 hours of my work. It was $200 an hour, which was $2,200. But the attorney charged her at least twice that amount for hiring me. So now you're talking about $4,400 and whatever else they charged her. So even though she was never found guilty, it still cost her lots of money. You think about how much money it still cost her.
Yes, sure.
So you can't just wear it. You got to think about long term. Long term meaning not just a lawsuit, but those people that buy from you. If you did a great job, you were ethical and legal and all that good stuff. When they're ready to sell in 7 to 10 years, you're the first person they call. That's what you want. It's all about repeat business.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that sums it up, Jeff. Like the whole episode, this episode was all about where is the real estate education is broken. And now I think that the real answer is if any of the site, like the sellers, buyers, or even the clients, if they are not aware of code of ethics, then I think this is the biggest gap. This is where the biggest gap starts to happen. Am I right?
You are certainly correct.
So, Jeff, this will be the last question of this episode. What's that one thing you would want to question about how the agents are trained?
Include ethics, laws, and examples of people that have done good and have done not so good. Don't concentrate on who was the top producer of the month or the top lister. Concentrate on people that have done good in the office. Someone who had a great, at one of your meetings, someone who had a great transaction because this is what they did for those people, and let them talk about it. And more good stories, and then scare tactics too. It's not all about just sales. Yes, sales put money in your pocket, food on your plate, but it doesn't keep you around.
I think, Jeff, the newer agents that come in real estate, they want to prove themselves out that yes, he or she can do it, and in a better way than the any other agent or their competitors. Am I right?
I agree. I think some of the new agents coming out are phenomenal. And plus they just went through the classroom. So they're learning more about what they have to do. Now, same thing when a new agent comes out too, is when the first company they work for, they're the ones that company's going to mold them into the agent that they're going to become. So I think first new agent training is very important, not just on tools, but how to do the paperwork, how to deal with a client, what's the right thing to do, objection handling is a big thing. What if someone says this and I don't have an answer? What do I do? So I think it all starts from the beginning. So it all starts in the company that you join as a new agent
Yeah.
and how they're going to mold you into the right way to do real estate.
Okay. And Jeff, if somebody out there, it can be any agent listening to this podcast from anywhere around the world, if they want to learn objection handling, can they get in touch with you at any given point of time?
Sure. I mean,
Awesome.
certainly. I mean, if at 2 in the morning, I might not answer you, even if you're in a different time zone.
Yeah. That is one thing that you are open to make them also learn. Like they don't have to particularly come sit face to face with you and enroll themselves into their classes. You can just conduct an online class and then help them with whatever question they have in their mind.
Yes.
Okay. So, Jeff, this conversation really sets the foundation for everything we are going to explore in this season, from experience versus the education to fiduciary responsibilities, burnouts, and consumer protection that we are going to discuss in the next upcoming episodes.
Cool.
And in the next episode, we'll go deeper into why experiences alone isn't enough and how structured education can change outcomes for agents and client alike. So, would that work for you, Jeff?
Sounds good to me. Thank you very much thanks for doing this.
Pleasure is all ours. So, everyone, until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep talking about real estate. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks. Have a great day, everyone.